It's great to meet you. I love the new album.
Thank you.
Yeah. Looking
I'm
forward to
pretty.
getting into it.
Let's.
Yes, let's do it. So, after the fire, before we get into the album, I want to know this. 5 years ago, this pandemic changed our lives. Really just went through all of us, but especially musicians. How did you survive the pandemic of 2020? And how did it either influence this album or what you're doing right now?
It exacerbated some things that were going on in my life. At the time, I was splitting my life between teaching here in Canada and in the summers, I would live in Northwest Iowa.
Okay.
And I went back to Iowa when they closed everything in March of 2020. And we were all locked down. But more importantly, while I was there in June of 2020, this condo that I'm sitting in here burned to the ground,
Wow.
hence the after the fire. I came back in August to do another year of teaching, but it was chaotic because I didn't really have a stable place to live, and everything was still locked down and quarantined and all that. So I survived it because I'm fortunate enough to have a good teaching gig. Musically, it was kind of a desert for quite a while.
So talk to me about this album. Obviously, with what you just said, the title of it makes sense, but talk to me a little bit about the message and the artistic vision that went into this.
One or two of the tunes on the album I had written before the fire during lockdown, and the rest of them I wrote after that. And the most recent one was only like 3 or 4 months before we recorded it. I love jazz, but I don't necessarily think it's fixed to one style. I think of it as an operating system.
Yeah.
There's lots of things out there that we call jazz, that jazz musicians call jazz, but I wanted to make something that was melodic. I want to be able to remember what I've heard 30 minutes after I've heard it. Uh, so in that sense, the tunes are pretty strictly organized with forms, but I'm a sucker for melody, and I want people to there's a thing that we do in jazz education. You take a standard like Body and Soul. What can you play on Body and Soul that you can't play on any other tune? The melody to Body and Soul, right?
Yeah.
So I wanted tunes that stuck to you like really good pop music, that stuck to you like Steely Dan or the Beatles or something like that. So that informed my choices. And I had also gotten really attracted to the sound of my acoustic guitar. And I thought, this doesn't get enough notice. This doesn't get enough shrift in the world of jazz music. I like the nylon string guitar, Charlie Bird, Earl Klugh, guys like that. But I wanted that sound with that snap in it. So most of these tunes were written on the acoustic guitar, and I wanted them played that way.
So take me back to 1970, Ed Sullivan Show. You hear Hey Jude. How did that become the entry point for you to love this music, to love the guitar, and to pursue it as a career?
First of all, I have to be a stickler because I teach a class on the Beatles. Uh, Hey Jude was filmed for the David Frost show in England, and the film was run on Ed Sullivan Show sometime in 1968.
Okay.
And I was 7 years old, standing in front of my TV, and it was like lightning struck me. I wanted to do this.
Yeah.
There was some kind of magic that they were conjuring up, and it was working on me. I got a guitar for Christmas when I was 9, and I've tried doing other things in my life, but really, this is all I've ever wanted to do. The Beatles were a gateway drug to a lot of things. Um, they led to progressive rock. Progressive rock led to some of the more rock-ish jazz, like 70s Miles Davis. And that led me around to fusion, and that led me back to right back to the source, right back to Thelonious Monk and Sonny Rollins and things like that.
What was the first live show that you ever saw that blew you away, that made you, that solidified this idea that you want to perform and be a musician?
Well, the first live show I ever saw was in 1974. It was two bands that were relatively new at the time. One was Aerosmith, and the other was Kansas.
Wow.
And the power of it was overwhelming to a little kid like me. I've seen lots and lots of shows. That one didn't necessarily move me toward becoming a musician, but a lot of the jazz shows I would see later in life certainly did. Um, I got to see Weather Report in the Victor Bailey era. Um, One of the strongest. I saw Miles Davis a couple of times, once in the We Want Miles era, and they scrubbed my mind. They made me have to look at the rule book all over again. How does this noise, how does these notes, this tempo, this feel, how does it change the way I feel? How do I get access to that?
So how did you begin? What was the initial set of shows? What was kind of your vault and jump into this world?
Uh, in grade school, they came around, the band directors did, and gave everyone a musical aptitude test. And the girl who came in first, they pretty much made her play the French horn. I wanted a saxophone, and my parents couldn't afford one. We got a clarinet with a promise. The saxophone never came. I played the clarinet throughout high school, but this is how I learned to read music. Thank God every day for that.
Yeah.
Guitar players are notoriously not strong readers. I played in the high school band, in the high school jazz band. Um, and when I finally went off to university, the only thing I really wanted to major in was music. I went a little late in life. Uh, I was 22 when I finally went off to college, but I went to the University of North Texas. I thought I wanted to be a composer, so I was a composition major. And they did what they referred to then as 20th century music. Um, it wasn't jazz. I'm open to a lot of things, and sometimes we discover what we don't like.
Yeah.
Sometimes we learn to play the mistakes so we can not play them anymore, and we learn, okay, that's interesting, but I don't want that in my recipe. Um, the jazz education at North Texas was overwhelming. Um, After that, I really wasn't a musician. I worked in the record industry for 8 or 9 years because I had a wife and rent to pay and things like that. And in North Texas, there's a lot of fabulous musicians, too many fabulous musicians, and not enough gigs for them all.
Yeah.
But I went back to grad school in 2001 with the sole purpose of, okay, let's face up to this. I want to be a better player and I want to learn how to write the things that I'm hearing. And that's what put the nails in it for me. I played in the 1 o'clock lab band there. I got a couple of charts written that they were gracious enough to play for me. I got enough experience to know how many things I didn't know. So
Yeah.
that's the path.
Yeah, I dig it. So let me ask you this. What do you like the best about being a professional musician? What gets you up every day to create and to evolve as a musician?
I can't necessarily speak to evolution. I look at it like we're sponges. Everything that I listen to and everything that I like, regardless of the style or the time or whatever, I think it just kind of goes into us in a big funnel. Um, I think of myself as a professional musician, but also as a professional educator because we don't write these things for a desk drawer and we need to have them heard. And in the process of teaching that, I have to get better at it. The thing that keeps it going for me um, is that the more I listen, the more that the sponge sort of gets filled up. And I keep notebooks all over the place because I will be doing something unrelated and I will hear some notes go by in my head. And I've learned I better write them down. Later on or the next day or whatever, I look at them and I go, okay, what is this? And sometimes I have to ask, who wrote that? But most of my tunes come about that way. Okay. And I worry them, I fidget with them, I push them around a little bit. Um, and sometimes I ask myself, why do we need this? There is already so much really good music in the world. What am I going to have to contribute that could possibly mean anything? And for example, there are 7 tunes on After the Fire, and there are probably 12 tunes that I could have put on it that no, they didn't fit, or they weren't as good as the ones that we played,
Yeah,
stuff like that. I keep going because every once in a while you hit the ball hard.
very true. So, as an educator, what do you try to teach to the young and evolving minds out there? The things that you've learned on the bandstand from veterans and legends and luminaries, what do you try to pass along to the younger generation?
The thing that I find lacking, frankly, is that a lot of times the students aren't listening. It's one thing to learn how to do something and enjoy doing it for the sake of doing it, but often it becomes self-serving. And I was guilty of that when I was younger, and some days I still am. I play something because, oh, this is neat. I like doing this. I like how this feels. But that's not necessarily the same feeling that the audience is going to get from that. And to that end, for example, when I'm rehearsing a student group, um, let's tape this and listen to it. When I'm teaching someone a guitar lesson, put your phone on and hit record. We're going to go back through this later. And I want you to listen to this later after your lesson and judge for yourself. Do you sound like what you feel like you sound like? Are we playing because of what's inside of us, or are we playing because of what we think we hear somewhere else? These kinds of things. In general, the whole point of jazz music as an operating system for me, learn all the rules, learn how the notes go together, learn how this sounds and that sounds, what this chord feels like to you, learn as much of it as possible, even though you'll never finish learning it, I hope. But when the sponge gets full, go out there and squeeze it. Start playing the things right from your gut.
You know, from anybody that's known or was around Miles Davis, they always laud him for the way he listened.
Hmm.
They say that was one of the best qualities of him.
Bill Evans, the saxophonist, and John Schofield did a clinic at North Texas when I was an undergraduate. This would have been 83 or so. It was a kind of impromptu, all of a sudden, hey, they're here and they're doing a workshop. And they told the story about the 2 rehearsals that that band had before they went on the road. And they felt woefully unprepared. And Bill Evans said, we got on the bandstand and we were all wired listening because so little of it was prepared. You had to be absolutely in the moment.
Yeah,
And that's the theater that Miles wanted to operate in because you reacted spontaneously, you didn't overthink it, and there was a chance for some real magic to happen that way.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. When you finally decided that you wanted to be a musician, you obviously have this ideological notion, this dreamy notion of what your career is going to be like. But then you actually have your career. What was the difference between the dream and the reality of this music career that you've had?
Wow. I really didn't know what it was going to look like. I don't think I had a preconceived notion. If you'd asked me when I was 16 or 17, I'd say I wanted to be some kind of rock star, not necessarily of the, rock and roll, heavy metal sort of variety, but an intelligent sort of operator,
Yeah.
okay, who could play the guitar, who could write something, whatever. What that looked like in real life, I don't know. I just know that I wanted to put that to use somehow. Um, Later on, the more I learned, the more I realized I didn't know. And I am pretty introverted and not necessarily really outgoing. The magic part came when I got my teaching gig here and realized, A, if you really want to know something, try teaching it to somebody. You'll find out what you do and don't know. And B, I realized that I really enjoyed passing this along to somebody else.
Yeah.
I still have lots and lots of opportunities to play, and finding good musicians who heard things and understood things the way I did was made it possible to do After the Fire. I mean, I had these guys in mind when I wrote it. I knew what they were going to bring to it.
Yeah.
So I consider myself very lucky and blessed in that respect. I know lots of guys who have day jobs that they don't necessarily like.
Yeah.
I
For
get to
sure.
do something I love.
Yeah. So why do you love this art form we call jazz?
Because, as one some famous rock star said, music is the one thing that will never lie to you. And it has often changed the way I felt, and it has often made me think of something that I'd never thought of before. It grabs me in ways that other things have not grabbed me. And as one of my composition teachers said once, if I could explain what this piece of music was all about, then I wouldn't need to write it. There's something in there that there is absolutely no substitute for.
So if you could get into a time machine and go back in time and see one, whether it's a jazz show or any show in general, where would you go? What would you love to have witnessed?
Oh my God. Oh wow. The first thing that pops into my mind, and if you gave me 20 minutes, I'd give you a list of them.
Yeah.
But the first thing that pops in my mind, May 25th, 1967, the Beatles are in Abbey Road Studios with a camera crew, and they're filming a mostly live performance of All You Need Is Love.
Yeah.
And it's live and it's being broadcast on satellite for the first time anywhere, a satellite link up. And, you know, the guy up in the control booth pointed at them and they counted off and off they went. And the studio was full of their friends and hangers on, and they were all in costumes. Some of them were probably chemically altered, and there was a string section and a big band and flowers and all of this stuff. I think that would have changed a few lives.
What a
That's the
great
first thing
answer.
that leaps to mind.
Yeah, what a great answer, because that was absolutely groundbreaking and stellar and just there was so much going on.
Yeah.
Man,
More information than people knew how to handle.
yeah, for sure. So let me ask you this. At the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you. Family, friends, fans, students, everyone out there that knows you, but you run the show. What's your
Mhm.
perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I think that I don't work hard enough. I think that when I stay out of my own way, I get lucky once in a while and make something that I can like. Just- I don't like a whole lot of what I do because I listen and I hear the regrets, the mistakes, and all that. I've tried very hard to pass on knowledge that is not going to be available very widely or for very much longer, I don't think. Um, as far as my relationships with colleagues and family and peers, most of them are very precious. I don't have much family anymore. Um, People are the most important thing of all. They're better. Having lost many of my possessions at one point, people are way better
Yeah,
than things.
I
Yeah.
dig it. So if anybody wants to pick up a copy of After the Fire or any of your previous work, where's the best place to go?
If you want a physical copy on Bandcamp, or there's a download on Bandcamp, I have CDs, but you don't want me to ship it to you from Canada because it'll cost more. I believe Caligram Records has CDs on available.
Yeah.
The Bandcamp page has links to all of these things. I know that people are streaming it on Apple Music and Spotify and Tidal and Qobuz. And I also know that as of last week, it was on 158 radio stations in North America and Europe, which I'm pretty damn pleased about.
Yes, I love it. I've already played it on the show. Kevin, thank you so much, man. Thank you for taking some time out today. I love your story and what you're doing. Thank you.
Joe, I appreciate it. Thanks for playing the record. Thanks for the attention, man.
Hey, jazz fans, Joe Domino of Neon Jazz here. Proud to let you know about the triumphant return of the Kansas City Blues and Jazz Festival to Legends Field at the home of the KC Monarchs with a stellar lineup. Grammy-winning Stanley Clarke, Carl Denson's Tiny Universe, jazz master Bill Frisell, and KC luminaries Jackie Myers and Brody Buster. Tickets and more for this electrifying two-day event is found at monarchsbaseball.com, then click on special events. This October 3rd and 4th, join us as we bring magic and music back to Kansas City.